Alright, we're just going to be waiting 17, 16, 15 seconds of warm-up. Get your support in the chat for your favorite player for this first match of the head-to-head. We've got Granadi from Alternate ATAX, winner of the Super Final, versus Worker from Nil Esport Club, 4th of the Open Grand League Super Final. They're both going to fight for a spot in TMGL playoffs right now. Map 1 underway. Here we go.
Alright, here we go. We are live for the first match. The 1v1 head-to-head Granadi versus Worker. And you can see already that Worker takes the lead in the first turn. This might be a good confidence boost for the Frenchman as we are moving into the first map Slalom. But Granadi immediately pounces back and is now taking over the lead, steering his way to first place. Into the wall ride he goes. And let's see, this is an interesting part coming up. Oh, you can see already Worker going more on the inside, and that is paying off a lot. It's taking over the lead from Granadi, especially with the better jump right afterwards. Onto the dirt we go. Worker tries to get as much speed as possible, and that is once again paying off in the first slalom of the map. We go higher up and over the sausage blocks. Ooh, Granadi with a little bit more airtime, and that means Worker is going to stay in first place, but it is still incredibly close between these two players. Worker releasing a little bit, and that means Granadi can keep up with the pace that the Frenchman is showing right now, but Granadi now has more speed. It's coming down to this identity, but Granadi is going like a rocket. What is going on right now? Ooh. But Worker with the inside line approach, and I don't need... Granadi has more speed, however, so we are entering lap 2 with Granadi in the lead.
Granadi in the lead with an opening lap of a 105.598. Granadi going with the ascended line, I should say, rather than Worker, who went more for a closer apex at the uphill U-turn, and Granadi had more speed at the ending of that. It could definitely reap dividends if done correctly, and so far Granadi has shown that with a gap of 0.2 of a second, ending at the exit of the grass bank corner. Now onto the dirt with the first dirt slalom coming up, really tight. Really tight, need to keep the lines neat and tidy through there, avoid the flags, nicely done. Now to the reactor boost. We saw Granadi getting a bit of hang time there beforehand. It's pretty clean from both players, and it's still advantage to Granadi by 0.3. Worker going really close to the outside wall on the next corner on the exit. Now moving on to the identity and the ice U-turn. Will there be someone sliding off right there on round 1? Let's see. Granadi going for the late line, Worker for the tidier line through here. It will not be enough to catch up to Granadi for Worker, and Granadi takes the round win. The opening round will go for the German with the 207.721 at the end of the 2 lappers.
Wow, clean performance by the German here, gets the first point on the scoreboard and has the advantage in slalom. I think one of the more important turns right there was in the first lap near the end, just before the identity, where Granadi shot off like a rocket and took a whole lot of time. And he kept that advantage throughout lap number 2, so that was a good job by him. But we're going to go right into the next round, where Worker has a chance to even out the scoreboard. So far, so good, as we are in a close battle going in the first lap. Let's see, this time around Worker not going so far inside, and this time it is Granadi who takes the lead after this part. Yeah, into the dirt we go, and we can see that, ooh, it is incredibly close between these two players. What an intense 1v1 right now. First slalom part is done, and Granadi's a little bit ahead, but it is really a coin toss right now. Oh, Worker! Never mind, look at the mistake. Worker is really trying to push it, trying to keep up with Granadi, and it did not happen for him, and that means Granadi is at 2-0 ahead already.
Yeah, 2-0 ahead, and that's going to be the first win by KO of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Be prepared to see a lot more of these happening, potentially, with mistakes like these cropping up, and that's already 2-0 from the German, as we're moving on to round number 3 so swiftly. I thought we were going to go to the end of 2 laps, like we went on round number 1, but it seems as though yeah, a small miscalculation from the line into the reactor boost from Worker yielded that round win to Granadi, as the whole shot is taken by Worker again for a matter of thousandths of a second in this supremely intense 1v1, at least so far.
Yeah, we are once again on the way, and yeah, it does look a little bit grim for Worker right now, but only one big mistake, you can catch up on that one easy. And as you can see already, Worker is off on a great start. This looks like a 0.1 lead already, so Granadi right now needs to fire up those rockets, because he needs to catch up to Worker, otherwise he's gonna stay ahead, and Worker will get his first point. Ooh. Oh, but look at this, Granadi has more speed, and he's gonna catch up the difference here, and now it's Worker who is behind, and Worker immediately starts risking not doing the release and trying to catch up to Granadi, and look at this, beautifully done by the Frenchman, and he is now going into oh my god, it is so close. I can barely keep up.
He touches the sign. He touches both sides.
Oh no. Yeah, and now it's over.
Now it is over. The double bunk, the pinball effect, as I like to call it, unfortunately cleans Worker for the second time in a win by KO scenario, and now Granadi is the one potentially to have most of the pressure because he's the one to actually be in the position to win the first map of the match.
Oh man, it goes so fast now, and right there I really thought Worker had it in the pocket because his identity looked really clear, well except for the bouncing part, but right before that, that was really exciting to see, so incredibly close to the checkpoint, and that requires some balls to go that close, but sadly the risk did not pay off and he made a mistake, and now Granadi is 3-0 ahead. Worker is not allowed to make any mistakes anymore.
Yeah, he's not allowed to make any mistakes, and he has to initiate the full send mode now and try to actually get that round win on his hands and try to keep it clinical in the same time. This is not definitely an easy task, especially when you're in this position where you have almost nothing to lose in this particular attention. Well, you have a point to lose on this map in this early stage, but still there could be some work to be done that can still be done to actually catch up a little bit later on. As we're moving on to the identity now, Granadi having an advantage of 0.4 of a second over Worker. Moving on to the ice U-turn, Worker going for the closer apex, barely missing the CP, managing to keep it off nicely, but Granadi with more speed at the end still has the advantage, or does he have more speed? Yaps is still around 1/4 of a second entering lap 2.
Yeah, but Worker did catch up a little bit in the end. There is still some hope, but it's not looking good. Granadi's already 3-0 ahead, and now Worker is behind entering lap number 2. Worker really needs to start pushing it here, and Granadi he can basically keep his own pace and let Worker make the mistake. And that is a really good position to be in if you are Granadi right now. He is on his way to winning his first map, 4-0. Wow, that is going to be a confidence boost and a half for him. And Worker is really sweating. But the round is not over. Granadi still needs to drive over that finish line. So far, so good for him. But yeah, that identity is quite scary. Although it did seem like Granadi had that identity under the knee, as they say in the Netherlands. Let's see the last identity coming up. Granadi, can you do it?
Granadi going for the higher line. Oh, he slides off!
God.
Slides off. First mistake from the German right here. We saw the pressure. We say that the pressure can actually get to him, and now that's going to yield the first round win to Worker right here. This could be the start of a comeback in this opening map of the series.
I did not see that one coming. Honestly, I really
Me neither.
Granadi
I didn't see that coming at all.
I cannot believe Granadi I mean, a mistake can be made, and luckily for Granadi, a mistake here is not that bad. Just one round win to Worker. Doesn't matter if you win the next round. You can forget all about that one. But maybe it sparks some hope into Worker right now, because he's already in the lead in this round. It's not over yet. And Granadi knows what is happening and immediately starts pushing on the grass. Takes over the lead, and now Worker is the one being behind. 1/10 of a second is quite a lot, but not so much.
Wall.
If you make a mistake, you lose it. And oof, this is a big mistake by Granadi. Is it 1.5 seconds though? No, not really. So the round is not over.
Definitely not over indeed. But yeah, that small touch was enough to actually give Worker the lead and actually give him a gap, a small buffer of around 0.3 of a second, which is enough to actually work with and give yourself a little bit of room to breathe as we head onto the U-turn. Nice line from Worker. Granadi with more speed, maybe, but no, he touches the sign. That will be a win by KO in favor of Worker. And yeah, apparently the pressure's getting to the German as he makes 2 consecutive mistakes in 2 consecutive rounds, and that will be the round win for Worker. It is 3-2.
I love seeing these 1v1 dynamics right now. If someone is ahead, you can immediately see that the player who is behind starts pushing like hell and trying to catch up and doing everything to get back into the lead. And sometimes that goes wrong, like it just did for Granadi. And now Worker is on 2 points. 1 point behind Granadi and just 2 more points to get the map win. We went from a really clear victory for Granadi to one tiny mistake, and now the momentum is back into Worker's favor. So let's see what this round brings us.
Yeah, currently heading into the wall right. It's still pretty much dead even with Worker taking the lead by around 0.03 of a second. Countermeasure directly from Granadi going down on the inside of the grass bank corner, trying to keep the lead fight pretty much fair and square. They're within each other's ghosts right now. Granadi keeping it off the wall this time around as they both go through the slalom, neat and tidy through there and onto the reactor boost part. Make sure to keep airtime to a minimum. You're always bound to get some by transitioning over the next part of the road. Worker having a bit more airtime, a bit less speed than Granadi. We'll get down to a 10.5 to 2 tenths down on the German as we head onto the identity now.
Yeah, and that is quite a big gap. Like I said already, is now up to Worker to start pushing it and try to get back up to Granadi. And
oh, he loses the grip in the middle of the ice turn. I don't think this is a win by KO gap just yet. You can see the gap is around 1.2 seconds in favor of Granadi. Not enough, but that will be enough with the flagpole. The flag is going to do it, and that will be 4-2 in this first map for Granadi. 1-0 for the German, who opens the series with the map win on slalom.
Yeah, well done by Granadi here. Almost slipping there, but this time around he locks it in and gets the map win for himself. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. I said already, if you are a little bit behind, you need to start pushing. And the perfect example right there, where Worker is a little bit behind after getting a little bit more airtime on the slalom part. He needs to risk it in the identity. And sometimes the risk does not pay off. And here we are in map number 2.
Map number 2 indeed it is, and it is going to be Bicycle. Now, we discussed a little bit the pace here. Do you reckon that this could still be a 50-50 despite the pace indicators that we've had over the course of the pre-show that we've had?
Honestly, it can be a 0-100 or a 50-50. I have no idea how to predict the result today.
Yeah, as we said, it can still be a toss-up anywhere during the match, and yeah, it's pretty much case in point as we're already getting started with round number 1 on Bicycle. Both, of course, on the first lap, you're going to go on the right-hand side to avoid taking the freewheel. The freewheel will be taking on the second lap. And the whole shot will be for Granadi for 0.03 of a second with the first jump coming in. And so far, around a 10th of a gap before the jump part. Oh, but Worker getting the no drift. That's a weird one to actually get no slide through here. As Granadi and Worker jump through the trees, it's advantage to Granadi for around 0.4.
Yeah, that was a really interesting no drift there. I've not seen that no drift before, or maybe once. That doesn't happen a lot. And looking a little bit wonky here for Worker, who is falling behind. The gap is 0.3 of a second, and I think you can say that is catch-upable, but it's gonna be hard against a player like Granadi. A lot is coming down to this jump where Granadi takes a really beautiful one, so Worker is not gaining anything. So maybe the identity needs to be risked, and I think I heard a little bit about Granadi having a tiny bit of a different line in the identity, losing sometimes compared to the other player.
Yeah, you can actually...
Well, that is not a little bit different. That is very different from Granadi. What is this line? Very interesting.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the approaches that we've seen already in the OGL final, and as well during the OGL season. Granadi tends to go for the turnaround after he crossed the booster. So yeah, he goes for a really late entry into there. Maybe it's more of a safer approach because he's not confident to actually initiate the turn-in before going onto the booster, but it does indeed cost some time, and that is actually paying off for Worker, who's actually taking the lead and moving the gap up to 0.3 of a second and trying to up the ante, trying to reclaim some of that lost, some of those lost rounds that he had on slalom.
I'm a little bit confused by this line. If it's safer, why are you doing it? It's a 1v1, right? You need to push every 100th of a second out there. So Worker getting the immediate advantage on this identity by just taking the faster line. And it's not like the identity is that hard to pull off, as we've seen throughout the season. So I'm wondering what went through the decision-making of Granadi here, doing this line instead. Maybe it is actually faster, but we've not seen it. We'll have to see in this upcoming identity, where Worker has to lead by about 0.3. Let's see what Granadi can do.
Yeah, Granadi again going for the late turn-in. But he tends to lose a bit of time in this particular section. Well, he's able to catch up somewhat, but you can see he loses 0.05 in this particular instance, and that will be enough to gift the win for the round to Worker with a 2:19.880 from the Frenchman in the fastest lap, first benchmark of 1:07.938.
Yeah. Good job by Worker, I guess. Solid performance, and he got the point. Deserved. And here we go into the next round, and if Worker plays like this, it's looking really good for him, but yeah, we've only seen one round so far. Granadi might start pressing B to boost, and we certainly have it all the way the other way around, as Granadi is already taking the lead. Beautiful, a low jump by the German, and that means he extending. This time, no drift from Worker, and wow, look at that. The tech section by Worker is paying off, already coming closer to his opponent. And now another tech drift coming in. Is Worker once again going to be the one with the better exit speed? Well, no, not this time, as Granadi is now back with 0.1 of their lead.
back with 1-1 of the lead, entering into the third. Granadi with a bit closer of the line towards the apex, still managing to keep some momentum in there, still managing to keep the gap of around a tenth to Worker, not losing too much time to Worker as we move on to the jump. Granadi going for the Supreme line as well, and Worker going supremely close to the tree as well, brushing a few leagues on the way in, and trying to keep the fight level-headed and square as we're heading onto the identity for the first time in this round, for the third time in this particular map. You can see Granadi waiting for the booster to actually come past before initiating the turning. Maybe some of you pointed out that the turning hard and fast with the wheel might be a little bit difficult. So yeah, it can definitely explain some of the differences in approach in this identity. But Worker so far heading into lap 2 with a lead of 0.4 of a second.
Yeah, that is mostly identity here. So the wheel, if that's the case, is not really helping out Granadi on this map. This just seems like a death sentence on the identity almost. I mean, maybe it's not that dramatic, but Worker getting a 3.2-ish every identity is quite big. And once again, he's in the lead by now almost half a second. Of course, his pace during the map itself has been higher than Granadi in this round, and that is a good job by Worker, but the identity is helping him as well. And wow, this is a really, really interesting map right now, and Worker's really pushing it, by the way, as we've seen in lap 1, how close he went to the tree. That was quite incredible to watch, and once again, decent jump here coming into the last identity. Worker seems to just need to finish the round, and he gets the point, but we've seen already that is not in the pocket because Granadi also messed up a free-to-win round in the previous map. So let's see, we're first part of the identity done. Second part of the identity, it seems like Worker is taking it safe here and locks in the win. 219.530 at the end, and a new fast lap of 107.929 seals the deal for Worker to make it 2-0 on Bicycle. And Granadi, yeah, again, losing around, you said it, 2 tenths at each and every single crossing of the identity. That might be the one, he might be considering this map to be the one where he feels a little bit weaker in comparison to that of Slalom or some of the other maps that are going to be coming up a little bit later on at the stage of the match. Meanwhile, round 3 already underway. Granadi with the low line on the jump, nicely done, and it's a gap of around 0.5 tenth of a second between the two before the dirt part. Yeah, and of course, the map is not over yet. If Granadi plays like he's doing right now and is pressuring Worker, you can force him to make mistakes, and that is still really important and still in play, even if you lose a little bit of time at the identity.
Oh,
wow.
But Worker...
sorry about that one, everyone.
Allô? Qu'est-ce qui t'est arrivé là? Sorry about that, but yeah, unfortunately Worker making a bit of a mistake, losing the drift or maybe hitting the wall. I didn't really catch, I caught that in the corner of my eye, but unfortunately Worker losing a lot of time. 0.8 tenths of a second now down on Granadi. He still has a bit of a gap to, he still has a bit of a buffer before the win by KO scenario kicks in, so he still has time to catch up, especially with this identity here. As you can see, he makes a bunch of time up for this particular one with Granadi, again going for that safer approach because of the restrictions of the input method that he uses. And Granadi heads into lap 2 with a gap of around 0.6 tenths of a second.
Yeah, Worker catches back up a little bit, and even with that mistake, he is now, wow, 0.3 behind. That is quite an incredible performance by Worker here, not giving up this round. And yeah, if you are Granadi and you turn HUD on and you see your lead shrinking away, ooh, that's a little bit scary as well. So we'll have to... Ooh, that is so incredibly close to the wall, but Worker is still in it. He really needs to put on the pace right now, because if it keeps going like this, I think Granadi will win. Especially now that Granadi has extended his lead a little bit after the tech turn.
Yeah, but 0.5 second is still very much catchable. It can all be due to a bad landing, or maybe just a little bit of a collision with the wall on the way onto a corner, and it could swing the odds in favor of Worker once again, as we're going to be heading into the identity now. You can see Granadi only has a gap of around 0.5 second. That's still catchable in the identity though, 4 tenths even. Oh, but Worker has been sent over to the moon, and it's not going to do him any favors, as he's going to be triggering a win by KO scenario for Granadi, who is going to come back on 2-1 in this particular one and get his first round win on the board on Bicycle.
Yeah, Granadi simultaneously winning by KO and driving over the finish line. So that doesn't count for 2 points, however.
Yeah, it only counts for a single one.
1 point on the scoreboard for him.
So
yeah, and here we go into the next round. And oh, sorry about that one, but I'll go ahead. And we are equal right now after the first turn. Granadi taking a little bit of the lead, but it's all coming down to who takes this first turn a little bit lower. And as you can see, Granadi is really good at that one and will take the lead at the start of lap number 1. but Worker seems to catch up often in that tech drift. So it's an interesting back and forth between these two players, what we like to see, of course, in a 1v1. And here we go, tech drift, good job with Worker. Here comes closer to Granadi, and now we have a battle on our hands. The lead is slowly evading away, and now Granadi actually has nothing left. It's a back and forth right now. It's hard to call who is first and who is second, because they are basically inside each other right now. Let's see what this jump will bring us, because maybe this is going to be a little bit of a clearer picture. Who is going yep-treeing? No one is, and that is good news. Worker takes the lead, however, after the jump. And now with the inside line as well, will extend that.
Oh, the slowdown from Granadi, barely grazing the wall, and the Axel penalty kicking in for the German, allowing Worker to move away to 8/10 in front of him, and the identity is going to compound this problem to Granadi. We're going to check the gap at the next checkpoint. You can see it's extended to almost a second, with Worker heading into lap 2 with a gap of a second, almost over 1.1 second in favor of the Frenchman right here.
Yeah, and the KO is 1.5 seconds, but this almost might as well be a KO. One big difference, however, is that there is a small chance Worker messes something up, and he loses a round if he does. And that is the good news for Granadi. He is still in the range, which gives him the tiny chance for Worker to make any mistakes. Although I'm pretty sure Worker in this scenario will play pretty safe and just make sure that he can drive over that finish line in first place. As you can see already, the gap is slowly eroding away. That's because Granadi is really pushing and Worker is making sure he doesn't make any mistakes. So I think both players are doing the correct thing here. Oh, okay, he did make it. For a second there, I was a little bit scared. But yeah, Worker's still in the lead as we go into the last identity.
Yeah, that was a bit of a close call. Maybe a bit too close to Worker's liking for the CP there. But yeah, it should still be a round win on the books and a finalist round on this on the board for Worker as he moves to 1 round away to evening the scales on the series, and he moves on 3-1, and he is just 1 round away to win Bicycle.
Yes, indeed, and it looks like the map picks are correct so far. Granadi picking the first map, he won that one, and so far it looks like, I don't want to claim it yet, but it looks like Worker is gonna win this one. And that means we will go in the way of whatever the players chose. And that means we'll probably go to a 3-2 scenario, if anything, if it's going to continue like that. So already exciting here. Of course, we want to see the 3-2. This is way better than a 3-0. And it looks like we're going to get one. And as you can see, Granadi right now with the small advantage going into the first round. And it is not over and out yet for the German. He can still do well and get a point. He's already proven that he can get a point, and just 3 more and he wins the map. On the dirt he goes. It is still so incredible because Worker slowing down a tiny bit on the dirt, and that means Granadi will stay ahead by 1 car length, but that is not a lot. One jump can change it. Granadi goes so far
CP. That's done.
Yeah.
It might be game over. We're gonna have to see the gaps, or maybe not quite. He didn't lose too much speed in the endeavor, but it's very close. I think it's a bit closer than he would like to be, Granadi, to the 1.5 second buffer for win by KO. But Worker is gonna take that to him in his stride. He's gonna say, "Well, thank you very much. If you're gonna give me the lead, I'll take that gladly." And he moves into the lead with a gap of a second as Granadi almost falls off the identity at the second U-turn. 1.2 seconds in favor of the Frenchman, on his way to potentially win Bicycle to make it 1-1 in this best of 5.
Yeah, it is Worker's round to give away right now. Granadi, oh yeah, okay. Granadi seems to really like touching checkpoints. He just did it again, and that means we'll probably see the knockout here.
Yeah, there he goes. Win by KO is going to be coming in. So yeah, the knockout is definitely happening. And it will be
as well.
Yeah, in the Yep tree that we didn't see. Well, we can't see on camera because I wasn't focusing on Granadi. But yeah, indeed, KO for Granadi by Worker, and it will be a map win for Worker, 1-1, as we're going to be heading now onto Granadi's map pick, Arctic Split.
Arctic Split coming up, and I'm excited for this one because we've seen already from the regular season, the OGL final, the OGL Super Final. Really, Granadi shines on this identity, and Worker must know this. It's going to be scary for him.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be really, really scary. And the thing about Arctic Split, I've already evocated this on the earlier broadcast, but it's all about the execution of the identity. The theory of it is not too hard to get down, but it is definitely going to be super important to have this down to the T in terms of execution, because landing too close to one of the poles could basically wreck your entire race and yield you a loss of places or maybe a win by KO. So meanwhile, first start with the ice turn, and Worker takes the lead by around the 10th.
He does indeed, so good job by Worker so far, but Granadi is lurking in the shadows. Over the wall right he goes, and he has a little bit more speed. But yeah, that is immediately given away, of course, and in the next turn. So back and forth for the players right now. Worker is, wow, has a lot more speed right now. And that means already 0.3 of a second. That is quite a big gap. Honestly, should be a win in the pocket for Worker here if the pace of Worker is going to be as high as he had before. And that on Granadi's pick. This is a good start for the French player, but we'll have to see in the identity. The gap is 0.3. What will be the gap after the end of it? Onto the wall right we go, over the blue part. Worker going a little bit wide, and here we go, first part of the identity. Let's see it.
And Worker touches the pole already. This will be a win by KO
right
straight away. That might be a win by KO straight away. 1.31, you'll see the gap go over 1.5 now. 2.2 seconds, and he can just keep it up unless he makes mistakes and slight stresses like this. It might be enough for Worker to catch back up. No, it's not. For 600s, he does not deny the win by KO to Granadi. 1-0 for the French, for the German, sorry.
Yeah, but Worker almost came back in the range right there. 1.56 in the end. If he got within 1.5, he had to continue the round, and it wasn't over yet, with Granadi stumbling a tiny bit in the last part of the identity. Luckily for him, though, it was still enough to lock in the round win. I mean, I'm saying that Granadi is good at the identity, but if Worker stumbles like that, of course, anyone seems really good at the identity. I'm sure that Worker will do fine, however, coming up in the next couple of rounds. So far, so good, as we are in a 1v1 battle and a half right here. Worker has a tiny bit of a lead and seems to be a tiny bit better at this part of the map, but Granadi already catching back up. Outside line and then going inside for Granadi, and we see different approaches by the two players. Granadi going for a tiny bit more speed, and this is paying off slowly but surely. It does feel like Worker had the superior line on that one, at least in this round. We'll have to see what's coming up next, though. This wall ride is going to be important for the exit speed, and then, of course, the famous identity. Here we go. Wow, Granadi already catching up on the wall ride, and now the identity is coming up. Granadi is pushing up, and Worker takes it better the first part, but we have two more parts coming up. Let's see what is going to happen now. Worker once again with good execution. Granadi cannot keep up with Worker right now, as they are basically doing the identity equal with each other, and that means Worker stays ahead into lap 2.
And yeah, pretty much perfect execution. A bit of a clip on the inside of the lap 2 right here on the ice turn from Granadi. A little bit of a hairy moment there for the German I wager, but still managing to keep it on the road. And so far, it's still game on between the two, with less than a tenth between Worker and Granadi. Worker currently holding the lead thanks to a supremely executed first lap in identity as well. Granadi getting a little bit, maybe of airtime, a bit of a slide. He's going to lose a bit of time. 2/10 of a second now in favor of Worker, as both are getting their different approaches. The gap will widen to around 4/10 in the next checkpoint, and so far Worker's got this in the back, and we've seen how easily can go haywire for the man in the lead, or for any one of these players in the identity. Land a little bit too far off the ideal line, too close to one of the poles, you have to deviate your line and lose time, or worse, you can actually flip over. And actually Granadi going really close, but he gets the touch, so he will lose a lot of time and speed from there, and the gap will widen to half a second. But Worker touching the pole, and that's going to give the win to Granadi potentially. Third and final jump coming in. Worker is letting this one slip away from his fingers. Granadi taking the win with a 2:21.347 at the end of the two lappers, a 109.646, the first real benchmark for a fastest lap.
Wow, that was a round. Really, really interesting to see right there. Good first lap by Worker, staying ahead of Granadi, even though Granadi is famous for his identity. And Granadi keeping up with Worker throughout the round, keep holding on the pressure. And that means Worker cannot save the identity, and that forced him to make that mistake. So really good tactics by Granadi here. And wow, what a round was that.
Yeah, that was quite a round indeed. At the exit of the round right into the dirt, Granadi having the lead of around 1/10 of a second, but it can really go either way really quickly. Worker with a bit better line on the platform part will snatch the lead right away, and with a better approach compared to that of Granadi, will make sure that he has a gap of around 600. Still Granadi with a bit more speed at the exit will keep the fight really level-headed, and it's going to be pretty much game on until the identity on lap 1.
Yeah, this time around Granadi's line is paying off. The higher speed was able to secure him first place so far. But here we go into the identity. And wow, we're gonna go equal into each other. It's already an exciting round. What will the identity bring us? Granadi takes a good one, but Worker has a little bit better of an inside line. Still equal, however. Let's see about the second part. No releases for Granadi. The balls on this man are incredible. And here we go into the third part, and Worker goes too far to the right. Granadi also slows down, I think, because but it's way less, and Worker is gonna get slowed down more and more and more. 1.5 seconds is not reached, however, and Granadi makes a mistake on the ice.
Worker does not make it!
Around.
Oh my goodness! Worker completely crumbling on Granadi's map pick, but Granadi really had the sweat, the little drop of sweat on his forehead. I can very clearly see that because of the sketchy exit from the ice turn. He basically just lost grip in the middle of the ice turn. That was really unfortunate for Granadi, and now 3-0. This could end up being a 4-0 on this one, but it's not over until it's over in this map.
It definitely isn't, and I think Worker has showed he has the potential to get a couple of round wins here, and this can all go south for Granadi starting from this point, or maybe he just locks us in right now. We'll have to see. So far, we are basically equal. Granadi, once again, not releasing, and will take over the lead on Worker at the start of the round. And this is a good position for the German to be in, already 1/10 of the lead, although Worker is immediately pushing, as we have known from him. The pace on this man is incredible. Here we go with the line. Let's see who takes it better this time around. And, oh, Granadi, beautifully executed. And here you can see the speed paying off. Although he goes a little bit on the outside, it must help him out on this part. It does indeed. Granadi's in the lead, but by a tiny amount. What a 1v1. Look at this. The gap is 200th of a second. Absolutely incredible as we go into the wall ride, and the identity is once again going to be incredibly important. Worker with the lead going into it, but what will it be at the end of it? Worker has the better approach on the first part, but Granadi maybe on the second one.
No, it's the bonk!
Huge mistake, and Granadi wins the map with that one. And really the story of this map has been Granadi pushing Worker to make the mistake that Granadi needs to win the round, and he does it again.
This map could have been really heavily decided, but the mistakes of Worker over the course of the previous 4 rounds has made it a freebie for Granadi on his very own map pick. 2-1 for Granadi, who's just 1 map away from a TMGL Fall 2021 slot, as we're going to be moving on to the second map pick from Worker, which is Frozen Fridges. But as we've seen earlier on during last weekend, Frozen Fridges is actually a map where he's pretty good on.
Yeah, and now we're getting into a really juicy map, because of course the players choose what map they have the highest win rate on first. And then we will see closer and closer maps towards the end. And we are now on map number 4, and that means we're going to see some close maps coming up. I cannot wait for this one to start, and it will in 1 second. Here we go, no time wasted.
No time wasted, no rest for the wicked. We are heading on to map 4. This could potentially be the map of TMGL spots for Granadi. Worker is the one who has the most work to do. He's got everything to lose at this point. He's down 1 map on Granadi. So far, the start is looking pretty good, both remaining within 100th of a second of each other, so it's still really a bit of a close call. Granadi with more speed at the exit of that particular corner retakes the lead and tries to extend the gap. It's still going to be nip and tuck.
It is indeed Granadi with a better approach on the jump, however, and that means he has more exit speed coming in on the dirt now, and Granadi once again looks strong as Worker is stumbling. He makes a bit of a mistake, bumps right into the left part, and that means he will slow down a bit. Not 1.5 seconds, however, so that means the round will continue on, but Granadi is definitely having the advantage right here. Maybe the upper gear will save Worker, but he didn't get it, or at least maybe both got it, but the gap is not closing. 0.7 of a gap right now between Granadi and Worker, and this is Granadi's round to give away, and that is scary for Worker right now, who is already a map point behind, and this might be the last map he will see this season, as Granadi is taking the lead in the first round.
Yeah, indeed. Granadi taking the lead into the first round right here. Let's see the gap at the end of lap 1. It will be a gap of 42 hundredths of a second in favor of the Frenchman, and an early benchmark of a 108.558. Right now, Worker going a bit inside. Ooh, that was a bit of a risky... I think that was a bit of a hairy line, in my opinion, from Worker. Trying to push it, trying to catch up to Granadi. So far, the gap still remaining around the 4/10 of a second mark, though. And actually, Frozen Fridges is one of the maps that we've seen the closest races over the course of the season of TMGL. And that was true as well during the finals. So it could still very much go really haywire and can go either way as we're heading up to the identity for the second and final time in this opening round. So far, Granadi having 3/10 of an advantage over Worker. They both need to keep it clinical. Now Worker needs to hope for a miracle for Granadi to surrender that lead. The gap is around half a second at the exit of the first U-turn. Now onto the second turnaround. Second turnaround, it's around 4/10 of a second. The gap still remaining stable. Now moving on to the third and final one. 3/10 of a second. Will it be enough? Can Worker pull something special? I don't think he can unless a mistake happens from Granadi. It will not happen. It will be the first round for Granadi with a 2:13.185 at the end of the two lappers and a 1:04.627 as the first benchmark for the fastest lap.
Yeah, clean run by Granadi here, and that gives him the round win. And we will see a couple of clean runs on this map. Like you said already, close battles in this one. Not a lot of mistakes that will happen from the players, and it's all coming down to the pace you have on this map, which is a really exciting map to have in a 1v1 scenario. And Worker did not give up on that round. I've seen from spectating him when he was a little bit behind. He's really pushing it, going towards all the corners, getting as much as possible. It was just not enough to get back up to Granadi, however. And right now, once again, Granadi takes the lead, although the gap is a lot smaller. Look at that, Worker is pushing it. Beautiful to see. He is not leaving anything on the table, and that means Worker overtakes Granadi and is now leading the round with 0.1 of a second. But Granadi has more speed out of the engine cut block, and he catches back up. But oh, look at this, struggling a little bit of airtime, and Worker is once again in the lead. Back and forth between these two players. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, absolutely crazy, and Granadi managing to barely keep it off the wall after that air time on the downhill. That could have been really costly if that wall touch would happen, because it's right at the end of the freewheel before the checkpoint. So yeah, it could have sapped all of your momentum right before you crossed it and regained control of your car. Meanwhile, Worker heads into the lead into lap 2 with a gap of around 2 to 3/10 of a second. I wager 2300ths of a second in favor of the Frenchman, heading into lap 2 with a 108.502, the opening lap.
Yeah, what a round so far. Worker has the advantage, but Granadi is on the prowl right now. 0.1 the gap is now, and as you can see, it's slowly fading away for Worker. What a round we have on our hands right now. Let's see who takes the jump a little bit better. Ooh, Granadi goes a little bit more diagonal. That's going to give him some more speed, but he goes for the early drift that Worker's not doing. That is a line advantage for Worker, and maybe a little bit more risky, but it's paying off. As you can see right now, Worker has extended his lead. 0.2 of a second, and Granadi needs to get the upper gear, and Worker needs to not get it, otherwise he's not going to catch up, and Worker is going to get the point. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, Granadi's really pushing it. It's not going to be enough, so that means Worker just needs to finish it here. But yeah, that can be quite hard. Let's see if he can do it. The second part done correctly once again, and Granadi is still behind Worker. The last turnaround, and once again Worker takes it. He goes up really high. Granadi is trying to push it, but Worker, of course, has more exit speed because he goes up so high. And that means he's going to win the round.
Round win for a Worker with a 2:13.045 at the end of the two lappers. And yeah, it had really got on the ball for this particular round. Worker with that opening salvo, and unfortunately Granadi couldn't really do it. And we saw the defensive line with Granadi going for the early drift, as you said, whereas Worker goes for the no drift line, which is ultimately the faster line, which paid off big time for the Frenchman. But I think we can still be at the mercy of really surprising mistakes happening on behalf of both players, as we're already starting round number 3. So far it is still nip and tuck between the two, with Granadi having the lead of around half a tenth. Will he go for the early drift line? Yes, he does, and Worker does not go for the drift, and that immediately pays off, as you can see, taking the lead. But Granadi is not giving up with other fights.
Wow, and what a beautiful to see the back and forth between these two players. This 1v1 is absolutely incredible. They are delivering a match and a half for us right now to see. Ooh, Granadi has a little bit more extra speed out of this one, and that means he will take the lead in the first identity. Also takes it nice and low, and that means he's extending. Good job by the German, but it is not over yet. Worker is trying to push it, goes up quite high, going for the extra speed, I guess, but that means Granadi is looking strong out of this identity. Let's see about the last part. Yeah, Granadi once again will stay ahead out of the first identity. The gap is not too big, however. If Worker pushes it, he can catch back up. And here we go into lap number 2.
108.258, the opening lap of this round from Granadi. Granadi and Worker having relatively similar lines in this particular jump into the dirt banking, but yeah, so far Worker not managing to catch up too much. The gap still staying around the 10th of a second benchmark. It's going to take something special for Worker, or over the next section it's going to take a really good no drift line from Worker. He manages to get it, but Granadi already has an advantage of around 2/10 of a second, so yeah, it's going to be a bit of catch up of work to do, and he touches the wall, so that's potentially going to give instantly the round win to Granadi. No win by KO though. It will be a regular round win unless the... Oh, and he touches. That could be a win by KO right away. Let's actually see on the UI. You'll see it at the top of the screen. GranaDy trying to knock out Worker. The gap is around 2 seconds. After first, second checkpoint, third checkpoint comes in. It's a DNF, and it will be the round win for GranaDy, 2-1 for the German.
Yeah, indeed, and up until that point it was really close. Worker trying to catch up, and it almost looked like he was going to, but he pushed a little bit too hard there. Made a tiny bit of a mistake, and yeah, what can you do in that position, right? You have to full risk, there is no other option. Sometimes you will make that mistake, so that can happen for Worker. Let's get fresh into the next round where GranaDy is 2-1 ahead. But the map is definitely not over yet as Worker takes the lead in the first part. Look at this already with a beautiful tech section by the Frenchman and is 0.17 ahead of GranaDy right now. Here we go into this part and yeah, beautiful line by Worker. I love seeing it, honestly. I just love spectating this match and being here. And here we go over the sausage block and GranaDy, yeah, he catches up a little bit. This comes a little bit closer to Worker, so the round is definitely not over, but Worker has a huge advantage going into the first identity.
That line going through the freewheel though was really looking good for GranaDy, so he manages to catch up a little bit there, but it's not going to be enough to actually challenge for the lead, at least right now in this identity. He's going to have to give everything he can muster on that 2 to actually get that round win on his hands and on the board. Worker going a bit higher, getting a bit more speed on the way out of the identity. That's going to yield all across the range towards the finish line, and he gets the lead with a gap of a 10th. 1:08.525, the opening lap time from Worker.
Yeah, look at this. GranaDy is pushing it. What an amount of speed on this man, and he catches up the difference. But wow, look at this. These players are 1 car length behind each other, and that is 300ths of a second. That is honestly uncountable for humans. Luckily, we have computers doing it for us, but this is crazy. Worker takes a little bit of speed, but GranaDy has more exit speed out of the drift, so the line is not as bad as it looks immediately. And GranaDy now going for the inside line. Worker has more speed. GranaDy is giving it its all to catch back up, but Worker still has 0.1 of a second, and it looks so much, and it is almost nothing. Identity is possible for GranaDy to catch back up, and he's really trying for the low part. Oh, and Worker takes it better this time around though, so that means Worker extends his lead, but the last one is going to be the most important one. Does GranaDy have the most amount of exit speed? And is that going to be enough to catch him back up to Worker? GranaDy has more speed, but Worker is ahead. Is it going to be GranaDy or is it going to be Worker the inside line? I don't know.
Worker for thousandths of a second!
Are you kidding me? What a round!
My goodness, the exit from GranaDy looked to have the sphere fight on his hands, and it's less than 100th of a second that decides it, and it's now level-headed 2-2 in this match, and it's still pretty much game on now as we're heading into round number 5.
I mean, we knew there were going to be close fights on this map, but this is not what I expected. 0.00 on the scoreboard, the difference between the 2 players at the end of the round. And Worker takes it right there, and you know, one could say lucky and one could say better inside line. So good job by Worker, and he is now equaling out the scoreboard on this map. And
oh my goodness, Worker.
Oopsie.
Worker.
A little bit of a mistake there by Worker. And,
you
I
don't
guess
say.
Fair play or something, I don't know.
You don't say. 1.5 seconds, the win by KO is already triggered right now. If he can get to within that 1.5 second range, Worker can still be in, but so far it's not looking good. 1.84, what's it going to be at the end of the third checkpoint? We had a bit of slowdown by GranaDy, but it's still not enough. And now GranaDy is on match point, and most importantly, TMGL spot point right now.
Wow, and we go from like the most close round you can imagine to a round that is over after a half a lap, and this is the format we are in right now. And once again, I love the KO system because it closes out these rounds that would otherwise be not that interesting because one of the players is super far ahead. So I really like that system, and we can immediately go right into the next round where Worker is in the lead at the start, but GranaDy only 1/10 of a second behind. Can definitely catch back up. Maybe not in this round, in this little turn though, because of course we see Worker's line always paying off. And well, in the end, actually, it's kind of equal, so very interesting. But who will have the most amount of speed over the engine cut? Once again equal. Wow, these players are so close together. Absolutely crazy. Worker takes it a little bit better this time around though, and that means into the identity we go with Worker 0.3 ahead. And GranaDy is now trying to push it, going as low as possible. And this means he gets a little bit closer. That is good news, but it's not going to be enough to really catch back up to Worker. Maybe the exit speed on this time around can be a little bit higher. No, Worker actually takes the better exit speed, and that means we go into lap 2 with Worker being ahead.
1:08.358, the opening lap for Worker, and yeah, he's going to be the one to actually pull off the dream part, to keep the dream alive for a little bit longer. But we know that he actually has the pace. He's shown us that he has the pace, and he can actually take on Granadi. He just needs to actually get this over the line, keep it consistent, keep it clinical. Because so far it's not been going the way of the Frenchman over the course of the previous few maps, and so far he has the potential on his hands to keep the fight going a little bit longer, as we're going onto the identity in a few seconds. Inside line, and Granadi touches the wall. It's going to make the work a little bit easier for him. Well, the Worker is not going to have to work all that much, pardon the pun. But yeah, it is going to be a round win by KO. I'm assuming, there you go, you can see at the top of the screen, Worker will make it so that it is a decider round right now between these two, which is pretty insane to think about.
Yeah, decider round on Frozen Fridges, a map that is already close and now even in the points on the scoreboard. Here we go, the round that is going to decide it. Is Granadi going to qualify for TMGL, or will we go to the last map? This is the round, but we will see it. The pressure is immense for these players. I cannot imagine being in their shoes right now. The sweat that goes through you, the absolutely crazy, the amount of pressure that they are onto right now. And Worker is managing that pressure really good, as once again he is in the lead at the start, but Granadi is not giving up. Look at that, he's already catching up a little bit. And here we go into the jump. Let's see here. Yeah, good. A low jump by both of the players. Worker once again going for the no drift line, but Granadi will have more exit speed, and here he goes. Pressing B to boost, and will catch up to Worker already. Oh, the awkward line here onto the sausage block, and that means he's going to give away a lot of time to Worker. Ooh, this is not looking good for the German, as we are moving into the first part of the identity with Worker having a nice lead of 0.4, and 0.4 should be enough to hold on to throughout the rest of the map, but the pressure is high. Worker can make a mistake. I really hope for him that he doesn't, but it can happen. Granadi needs to give it his all right now, like literally world record pace to catch back up to Worker right now. He does already catch up a little bit, 0.3 of a second on the scoreboard instead of 0.4, but lap 2 is going to decide it.
It's pretty much all or nothing right here for this man, Granadi from alternate ATAX, that you can see right now around a 10th and a half behind Worker, currently leading the race, and he pushes as much as he can. He throws every single inch of pace that he actually has in his back pocket to actually catch up to Worker, but so far the German is resisting supremely well. 2/10 of an advantage for the little esport player. Right now going onto the drift part for Granadi. Will he get a bit more exit speed from that? Yeah, he manages to catch up somewhat to Worker right here. It could still be undecided right now. It will be up to the identity to decide. Worker going really close to the inside wall, keeping the line neat and tidy through there. Onto the identity we go now, on the downhill, keeping it off the wall, barely for Granadi, but he's going to lose a lot of time through this. He's going to allow Worker to get a gap of around half a second over his German competitor. Now just 2 more sliding turns to go, and Worker could potentially have the chance to even the scales on 2-2, or will Granadi pull something special with more exit speed? It will not be enough. He barely also touches on the exit, so that will be done for Granadi. Worker takes the win on Frozen Fridges, 2-2, and it will be going onto the decider map.
GG, dream scenario for us spectators right now, because we are moving into the decider map. Wow. Good job by Worker in the end. He kept it together and locks in the win. And we're gonna go with the map points being 2-2 into the last map. I cannot believe we're here.
Yeah, it's already we said that it was going to be an incredibly close matchup, and boy does it deliver to start off the day. And we're moving on to the decider, and the decider is none other than Thompson's reversing. We've seen some people pretty much break their teeth at the identity, or on this map in particular. So yeah, I don't think we're safe from actually seeing that happen as well on this particular map, on this particular matchup. And it will be basically a duel of 2 titans. Will it be Granadi or Worker, the wheel player from Germany or Lille Esports player from France? Here we go, final map of the match. Get your support in the chats. We're underway.
And what a map to end it on. Reversing, famous for his staying reversed identity in lap number 2, where you can risk it all and not turn around. A little bit faster, but really scary to do. And we will of course see these players pulling this off, because if you don't do it, the other player will snipe you. So you have to do it. And that means mistakes will happen, snipes will happen, excitement will happen on this map. And what a map to end it on indeed. Head-to-head 2-2 for Worker and Granadi, with Worker a tiny bit of lead at the start and takes this tech section a little bit better as well. And that means Worker is going to be solid in lap number 1. And, well, I'm saying solid, the gap is only 0.1 of a second, which is basically nothing. But on our screen, it looks like to be quite a bit. But GranaDy, as you can see, catches back up in 1 turn. And that is how small that gap can be. Now we go into the identity who does the landing a little bit better. Oh my god, I cannot believe they're actually inside each other right now. Well, I mean, in the video game. And here we go onto the turnaround on the ice. Both players turning around, but it is Worker with more exit speed going into lap number 2.
Yeah, the J-turn was performed beautifully by Worker, and yeah, when we say inside each other's ghosts. We are completely talking about the video game right here. Don't assume that we're talking about something completely different that might not have been intended to of a meaning, but meanwhile Worker still has a gap of around a 1/10 of an advantage to GranaDy in P2, and the gap seems to have widened a little bit. No, it actually was kept somewhat level over the course of the grass banking. So far, Worker still managing to hold the lead nicely here. GranaDy not really having an answer to the pace of Worker at the moment, even though he had a little bit of an answer on lap 1 before the identity came in. But it's going to take something special from the German for this end of lap 2 to actually catch up to the Frenchman and try to get the round win on his hands. As we're moving on to the identity right now from the perspective of the German, as he gives us an overview of how Worker is doing up ahead. Currently, nice landing from Worker, GranaDy as well, but the Frenchman has a lot more speed entering into the reverse part. Now we're going to see who's going to go for the J-turn or for the reversing part. Both go for the reverse part, and Worker will keep the grip and win the round with a 2:05.938 at the end of the 2 lappers, 1:00.573 for the Frenchman as the early benchmark for fastest lap.
Really nicely done by Worker here in the end. And you can see a different line. GranaDy going for more of a jump line where Worker keeps the full grip. We've seen, I think Pack was the first one to show this line off. Maybe someone else did before, but
I think you're right with Pack.
Our memories are from Pack on that one, where in the final he was doing that. And it looks to be a little bit safer. And yeah, that is very interesting to see. We can already see that GranaDy almost didn't make the finish and Worker had it pretty safe. So interesting lines for the 2 players.
Yeah, interesting lines from the 2 players. GranaDy apparently, I don't know if he's actually got to practice that line and he got it down, but he did not pull it off, which definitely gave an advantage to Worker, who was able to keep all the grip on the ground and continue his way into the checkered flag. Now, next round coming up, well, already started, we're already at the end of lap 1, but it's still pretty much nip and tuck between the 2. GranaDy with a bit more aggressive line over the bubble, but he lost about a bit of speed going a bit wide, so he allows Worker to be right there with him at the identity. Moving on from the perspective of the German right now, let's actually see both going past the booster cleanly. Worker around 3/10 of a gap before the J-turn, both performing the J-turn, and actually GranaDy completely missing up the line, and he's gonna touch the sign. It's gonna be a win by KO for Worker, 2-0 for Worker. This could still be in for the Frenchman right here. We saw that we said that we had the odds. I had the odds in favor of GranaDy. Well, GranaDy is actually proving me wrong, and now it's Worker for whom the odds are swinging back in favor.
Wow, Worker really popping off at the start of reversing here. Of course, the map is not over yet, but we can see that GranaDy is he's crumbling a little bit under that pressure. Going a yep sign right there, and had to respawn, and then still didn't make still wasn't able to finish off his line. So yeah, mistake from GranaDy. Worker gets around, and this time around, look at this Worker, beautiful low airtime line, gets more speed. GranaDy takes the different line on the grass, however, and claws his way back. Oh, look at this, GranaDy pressing B to boost, and he catches back up to Worker and is now overtaking him. GranaDy's back in the game, and he is not giving up. Yes, he's 2-0 behind, but that does not matter because you can win 4-2, and it still counts. GranaDy is in the lead by 1.1 of a second, and as we are moving into the identity, once again, GranaDy takes his tech drift a little bit better, and that's actually quite important because the speed that you can gain all the way up until this jump. And that means GranaDy will be in the lead going into the identity, but Worker just has a beautiful jump and immediately overtakes GranaDy. What is going on right now? The risk is on, and GranaDy is now the one being in behind. And after this identity, Worker will stay ahead because his turnaround was also a little bit better.
That J-turn didn't look really good from the perspective of GranaDy. That sluggish exit has actually yielded Worker a few hundreds to his way, but he's lost that time already a little bit more time. Heading into the second checkpoint, should I say rather. So Worker still having the lead, but GranaDy is definitely not far, and he continues to keep the fight alive. The race continues on for the German right now as he goes really close to the inside of the poles right here. Worker still holding the lead by around 0.2 of a second. The gap is still remaining stable as we're heading towards the final part of the map and the final part of lap number 2. Oh, no court line from Granadi and the penalty, the Axel penalty kicking in for the German as we're moving on to the identity right now. 1.23 second of a gap in favor of Worker heading into the identity now. Let's actually see if the gap has widened a little bit. Yeah, 1.63. The win by KO is triggering apparently. It could be crossing the line plus win by KO for Worker. Does he know that? Does he goes for the risky strat for the full reverse line and he manages to win the round conventionally, but he also gets the win by KO scenario and that's going to be 3-0 and TMGL slot points for Worker right now.
Wow, and now Granadi needs to win 4 in a row. Whew, that is scary, and the stakes are incredible right now. The difference in winning and losing here is going into the TMGL and or another season of OGL trying to qualify for this match again, but next season. That is a huge gap, and Worker is on his way to the TMGL right now, instantly taking the lead, 0.2 of a second, and Worker really wants this spot. As you can see, over the grass we go, and yeah, this is Worker's round to give away already. Granadi is struggling and really seems to lost his touch on this map as we move into it, and Worker just winning round after round after round, and we are now in round number 4, Worker's match point. Here we go, tech drift. This is Granadi's field, however. As you can see, once again, he takes it better than Worker, and that means he closes in the gap, but the round is not over yet.
Oh, the clip! Oh my goodness!
No, it is not. Worker saves his line, but that looked really scary for a second. Granadi is once again a little bit slower. The turnaround is going to be important. Who takes a better exit speed? It is going to be, well, basically equal, but that means Worker has the advantage.
Worker has the advantage of 0.2, just 1 lap left until the liberation for the Frenchman right here. The liberation of knowing that he will potentially take part in Fall 2021 TMGL. But Granadi is still in, he still believes in it, he still thinks that there's a chance, but he needs to find an answer really quickly, like right now, to the pace of Worker. Otherwise, it's not going to be good enough, and it will be another season in OGL potentially for Granadi right there. We're going to be heading towards the final part of the map now. It's Worker's round to lose. He is the one who actually has to make sure that he actually brings this one home, but he cannot really afford to slow down too much because Granadi is trying to catch up, but he gets the XL penalty again, and I think that should seal the fate of this particular matchup. Win by KO started now, just 2 checkpoints more, and ladies and gentlemen, I think you can applaud already one of your newest TMGL members right now. Worker from Lille Esport Club will be taking part in the Fall 2021 Grand League season. GG!